We are the only species in which the female has orgasms. That's remarkable, but it is so. It is a mark in general of the fact that there is much less difference between men and women in the biology of sex and in sexual behavior than there in other species. That is why sex and courtship are so highly evolved. It's why sex is geared so precisely to the animal's environment.
Only 3% of mammals form couples to raise their young. Our cousins, the chimpanzees, don't, nor do gorillas or orangutans. The Sumerians celebrated marriages.
When you want a moment to last forever.
And she was exchanged for a dowry. Thus, she became her husband's property.
You're the only one for me.
Merovingians and Carolingian kings, for example, were polygynous. We find large king groups arranging marriages between one another for purposes of alliance, and they had large estates.
I'm right here, and I always will be.
But in Western societies, close to 1 out of every 2 marriages fail. Even today, 5,000 women are killed each year in India because their dowry is considered inadequate.
There are 2 things in the world that last longer than time. Love is one of them.
And what the church did, beginning about 400 AD, was to set a set of regulations in place which effectively broke up those large kin groups.
They make the law, they tell us what the law is, and then they act as if it's holy writ.
Well, you're not suggesting that we spend all of the money on the wedding.
Yeah.
Those who do not have this power, those who lack glamour, become faceless.
Does anybody know me?
If you're not taking color pictures, there's something left out of your life.
The oil painting and the publicity image have much in common. And we only fail to see this because we think of one as fine art and the other as commerce. All of them related to the principle that you are what you have.
Sweeter girls have something, all right.
Who creates wealth? That wealth is only created when it's owned privately.
Nobody else but you.
Ideal's robot commando is battery operated to obey your command.
We pinch as much from other people as they pinch from us, you know.
You can patent anything in the world that's alive except a full-birth human being. If this goes unchallenged in the world community, a handful of global companies will own the actual genes that make up the evolution of our species.
And you belong to
in the United States, the average marriage costs $20,000.
There are some social scientists who say that in North America, life has become so bland that there's almost a craving for large rituals.
I do.
And this market value depends upon it being genuine.
When you have no written language, when you have no symbolism, when you have nothing that can be called a chemical formula, then you must have a precise ceremonial.
There is no nature.
Plato says philosophy is a meditation on and a preparation for death. And by death, what he means is not an event.
And then it happened. She met Ken.
But a death in life, because there's no rebirth, there's no change, there's no transformation without death. And therefore the question becomes, how do you learn how to die? And of course, Montaigne talks about that in his famous essay, to philosophize is to learn how to die. You can't talk about truth without talking about learning how to die.
If only we could. If only we could.
We can. We will as soon as you're well enough.
I just know. Could be.
Pity, I've never had any children, but you're wrong. I have.
Life's like that sometimes.
He's big enough to act like Old Yeller.
Go to them.
My queen!
You're the greatest lover I've ever had.
Hell, I practice a lot when I'm alone.
All I could think of was Sonia. I wanted to hold her close to me, weep tears on her shoulder, and engage in oral sex. It was then that I made the decision to live.
I love you too damn much.
He was only 39 years old.
Your mother can't be with you anymore.
And never let go of that promise. I promise.
So, the man starts by entering or mounting his good lady wife in the standard way.
Sex is a part of teens' lives, so it better be in their media, too. Media is just a mirror, after all. Or is it?
The picture's director explains it quite simply. I told Garbo to think of nothing. I want the writing to be done by the audience. You are nothing but a beautiful mask.
I can see myself in this plate, and this glass, and the silver.
See the pretty girl in that mirror there. Who can that attractive girl be?
Who are you?
Someone who could love you, that's all.
For I'm loved by your pretty, wonderful boy. It's such a pity me. For I'm loved by your pretty, wonderful boy.
How could I know that it was real unless someone else was watching?
The nude implies an awareness of being seen by the spectator. They are not naked as they are. They are naked as you see them.
There is no nature.
Thus, the mirror became a symbol of the vanity of women. Yet the male hypocrisy in this is blatant. You paint a naked woman because you enjoy looking at her. You put a mirror in her hand, and you call the painting vanity, thus morally condemning the woman whose nakedness you have depicted for your own pleasure, and thus, incidentally, repeating the biblical example by blaming the woman.
The errors can't be taken out of the observations.
That's not what we see here, but that's the penalty of projection.
We were wrong, and it carries such heavy costs. We see incorrectly, or we see only half of the story at times. Belief and seeing, they're both often wrong.
The selection pressures that gave rise to these adaptations are not embodied in the adaptation, so to speak.
It's amazing to what a high level this misunderstanding goes.
There were charges that Kinsey had allowed his personal interests to creep into his sample.
We are concerned in our early education actually with the postponement of decision. We have to put off the decision-making process in order to accumulate enough knowledge as a preparation for the future.
What do you think of Dutch girls as far as you've seen them? Any views?
Very good, yes.
Very good?
Very nice.
Excellent. Why?
Why are they good?
Yeah.
Well, all girls are good, actually, but I mean...
What makes a girl good?
What makes a girl good? I don't know, Oh, no, I'm just helping it.
Elise in, out, very thin and very pale. Katie out, in. Nicole in, out, in.
There's something a little bit vacant there.
Ebony. Her smile but I think Ebony's a little lost, maybe.
Brunettes are troublemakers. They're worse than the Jews.
Then wipe them out.
Too small. Not so fast. We get rid of the Jews first, then concentrate on the brunettes.
She'll never have peace until we have a pure Aryan race.
I've been critical of many things in that tradition, of our culture, of some of the values which it celebrates. And I've illustrated my arguments by using the modern means of reproduction. But finally, what I've shown and what I have said, like everything else that is shown or said through these means of reproduction, must be judged against your own experience.
He felt that all women should appear beautiful and all men should be handsome.
The nature of humans allows all kinds of behavior. I mean, every one of us, under some circumstances, could be, a gas chamber attendant and a saint.
Money's my business, eating's my pleasure, and Georgie's my pleasure too, though in a more private kind of way than stuffing the mouth and feeding the sewers. though the pleasures are related, because the naughty bits and the dirty bits are so close together.
Look at those two glasses side by side. You got a lot more dirt with children. You get a lot more clean.
Hefty trash can liners, get them. And help us men in white keep the garbage game clean.
The wealth of modern America could never have been sustained by taro and bananas.
I think these Ethiopians like starving. You know, it keeps them slim and graceful. Those big heads and those dreamy eyes.
It's an audacious idea that the inequalities of the world were born from the crops we eat.
I think that for a lot of disabled people, the violence and the sort of the hatred exists a lot in this reminding of people that our bodies are going to age and are going to die.
Wherever you go, you can find people who are smart, resourceful, and dynamic. No society has a monopoly on those traits. Of course, there are huge cultural differences, but they're mainly the result of inequality. They're not its root cause.
When in those in-between moments of, in between male and female, or in between death and health, when do you still count as a human?
The ascent of man has never come to a stop, but the ascent of the young, the ascent of the talented, the ascent of the imaginative, that became very halting many times in between.
Whereas there's a certain kind of philosophical universalism, which is often associated with evangelizing religions, where, yeah, we love everybody, but we want them to become like us in order to love them properly.
Cloning is the stabilization of one form, and that runs against the whole current of creation, of human creation above all.
Cosmopolitans think that it's okay for people to be different. They care about everybody, but not in a way that means they want everybody to be the same or like them.
It's natural makeup or the perfect base.
There is no nature.
Ce qui n'est pas naturel était naturel.
She had darker hair. Her hairline was high, so they did electrolysis. He felt her nose was not exactly right, and so he had her nose made a little smaller. He had her chin wide.
It's become mysterious again because of its market value. And this market value depends upon it being genuine.
In this closed circle, Eva Braun posed herself as the girl who was natural, healthy, joyfully physical.
Ah, die Aryan Maiden. Die Delikatessen mit der Schön. Und der Flexen mit der Stresses. Ah, und der Ulstein mit der Muss. Der Muss. Von der Kinder Katzenjammer. Der Katzenjammer mit der Ulten Sekt, der Hicken, Feiten, Hulten, Feiten, Dotten, Hulten Sekt. Hey, soldiers for Hinkle!
It's spectacular, and yet even the hardest electrons do not give a hard outline. The perfect image is still as remote as the distant stars.
Romanticism thoroughly saturated the discourse of modern thinkers. Can you totalize? Can you make things whole? Can you create harmony? If you can't, disappointment. Disappointment is always at the center. Failure is always at the center. But why call it failure? I mean, why not say you have a sense of gratitude that you're able to do as much as you did? You're able to love as much and think as much and play as much. Why think you needed the whole thing?
Even in private, Hitler had to correspond to the image sold to the public. Adolf with children.
Camera.
Even the baby is thrilled and seems all smiles at His Excellency's attention.
And he believes in the basic traditions of American life, home and family.
Adolf with dogs.
Mr. Mayer is also busy turning out films that help Americans escape the conflict.
Our two youngsters would like to have a dog.
Children and animals are perfect subjects.
There, buddy, it's all yours.
Wow!
There was no urge to kill, even though they were the enemy. No. What it came from was simply we had been trained.
G.I.